Hello, hello. Coming to you live from Italy, Bologna, Italy. It's been a little harder to try to push out videos and content since I've been out here, but you know, it happens. Vacations are very important, and I strongly encourage everybody to travel. If you're not a traveler, I encourage you just to try. Just try, get out, see new things. See new things. You'd be surprised at what you'd like. Food here is incredible. The people here are so nice. But the mosquitoes, they like me a little too much. It just rained not too long ago, so the mosquitoes are out and about. But I wanted to get a video in while I had the chance without, separating myself too much from the family. But finally, for the first time in so long, there's football content. Now, with that being said, there's some things I really wanted to touch on regarding my boys. I got 4 topics. I want to go over this B word that's been thrown around from Diggs to Dak. And everybody's been talking about what Diggs said to Dak and if it should be taken serious or not. And me being someone who's been on a lot of different teams in a lot of different areas of the country, and I've played with a lot of different people from a lot of different areas, So I have a pretty good perspective as far as what should be said, what shouldn't be said, how some people take things, how some people don't take things, what you should and what you shouldn't say. So I want to go over that. I want to go over Dak talking about his interceptions. I already made a podcast just kind of highlighting what would happen if he does not throw interceptions. And I also touched on how he's not a big interception guy as far as his career is concerned, so it's not really crazy to assume that he would lower the interceptions for just that season. I also want to get into Mazi Smith. I see a lot of people, mostly on Twitter, they're coming at Mazi, calling him a bust because he's getting off the ball late. And I have some pretty strong opinions on that, mostly because I played defensive line, and I had a big issue with that my own self. I had a big issue with my get off, and I just want to highlight the reasons behind the slow get off and why it's not anything to really worry about, especially with Mazi, and especially if you haven't seen it on film in college. I want to highlight that, and I also want to highlight how to watch training camp. So it's super easy. Sorry, a lot of people live here, so I have to make sure that no one's trying to talk to me here. It's super easy to watch training camp and get overhyped or take too much from it. And at the same time, you do see flashes in training camp, but I also think it's important to know what you're watching and know what the players are, what their mindset is when they go out to training camp. Because a lot of times we'll watch training camp and assume that's how the season is going to go. And that's not how it goes. That's not how it goes. It's just not how it goes. And there's reasons for that. I'm going to get into that too. So I'm going to try not to make this too long, maybe like 20, 25 minutes, if I can get that much of a video out. So starting off with this B word. I had mixed feelings about it at first. And I'll say this, the only negative thought I had about Dak hearing this from Diggs is I knew the media. I knew the media would hear it. I knew they would run with it. I know they would use that to stir up a problem and try to draw attention in between these two. Now, they do this with Dallas for everything. So it's not a shocker that they did this with this situation. But, however, there is something there, just a little bit. And when I say there's something there, I don't mean as in there's tension between them or they don't like each other. But the reason why this had a little bit of a right to blow up is because, as you've heard some athletes say, that B word hits different. It hits different. It doesn't matter the setting. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's your team, somebody on the street. That B word hits different. And whoever calls you that, that's got to be your boy. That's got to be your boy. That's got to be someone that you're like this with. If someone that you're not cool with calls you that word, me being me, I'm going to take that as if someone calls me the N word. You know what I mean? With a hard R. That's how I'm going to receive that word. Don't call me that. Don't call me that. Don't even, especially not in the football field when tensions are high, but don't even use that word when you're referring to me. You know what I mean? Unless you're my boy. That's the part I think people are overlooking. Dak and Diggs, they're boys. They're boys. And they're in competition. And I have a little story. It was my boy, Jojo Gutierrez. It's my guy. I still talk to Jojo every now and then. This was a couple years ago. We were in conditioning. And Jojo, anybody who knows Jojo, he is not gonna hide what's on his mind. If he wants to say something, he's gonna say it. It don't matter if you're Mike Tyson or if you're Hasbulla. He's gonna say what he wants to say to you. And I knew this about Jojo, but I hadn't gotten to an altercation with him to experience it firsthand. I see him call his boys, it's Jojo, Trajan, and Jacoby. Those are the three musketeers. Anybody that was at Highlands knows. Those are the three musketeers. I'd see them calling each other that word, but they could call each other anything, and no one would assume anything that serious from it because they were that close. So, they throw that word around within each other, and, it would roll off everybody's shoulders, and I'd always see it, and I'd be like, man, that's crazy how they just call each other that, because me and my friends didn't call each other that word. Like, that's just not a word we used for each other, like, and I see them throwing this word around, and it just shows how close you have to be with somebody before they're allowed to call you that, right? It was in conditioning, and I think I was complaining about the amount of reps we had ran, because how coaches will tell you, oh, you got 3 more reps, and then you run 5 more, and they're like, 2 more. I hate that. I hate being gaslighted, because I'm that guy that tries to go win the last race. So if you tell me, oh, there's 2 more reps, and I gas myself out in those last 2 reps, and then you tell me there's 3 more, I'm pissed. The coach was doing this, and I was complaining out loud, and Jojo hit me with the, stop being a, and it triggered me, obviously. It triggered me. And I remember walking up on him. Sorry, mosquitoes are crazy out here. I walked up on him, and usually people would back down, but I'm in college now. I'm in college football now. People aren't just gonna back down from me, right? Jojo, he calls me that. I'll walk up on him. Would you just call me? Oh, you heard what I said. Oh, well, call me it again. I bet you, we get into that little thing. Nothing happened because Jojo was my boy too at the time. But he called me that, and we got into an altercation. We argued about it or whatever. Nothing happened. We split apart. We finished the workout. And I tell you what, I bet you Jojo, if he sees this, when he sees this, would agree that that day is when me and him got closer than we ever were before. Because to accept that word from somebody, or when someone puts you in your place or comes at you and they use that word, if you guys can somehow get over it and get past it, you guys have a bond now. And ever since that day, I don't think me and Jojo ever got in another argument. And that's a lot to say, to not get in an argument with Jojo or me. Everyone gets in arguments with me. Everyone gets in arguments with him. Me and him never got in an argument after that for like 2 years. 2 years, no more arguments, because it was a level of respect that we both had gave to each other after that happened. And then from that day on, I was way more flexible, with the things that could be said to me. The B word became way more friendly to me within that group. So the point I'm saying is, when you're in a football team and you're competing against other people, a backup can't say that to a starter. A fight's gonna happen. A starter says that to a backup, he's bullying him, he's punking him. Or the backup may have a lot of pride and lash out. But when you have two of the stars on a team and one says that to the other, it's not the same. It's really easy to look at it and think it's a huge deal. If Dak would have retaliated and swung on Diggs, no one would be saying, "Oh, I understand. He did the right thing. Dak did what I would have did." Everyone would be sitting back saying, "Dude, you're the quarterback. You can't be getting in fights." Everyone would be lashing at Dak saying, "Oh, it's competitive. You guys are competing." Things like that get said. But because Dak just threw the football at him and ran off, everyone's going to act like Diggs is bullying him. It's not the case. It's competition. If there was sound effects to all NFL practices, you would think every team hated each other on opposite sides, especially when it's offense versus defense. And when both offense and defense are good, the competition is crazy. You should have seen the practices when we first got a new head coach back in 2019. It's February of 2020. You should have seen those practices. Our coach told us straight up, "Look, when I come in, I'm bringing in straight dogs. If you guys aren't good, you're not going to play. If you have any doubts of making the starting lineup, if you have any doubts of being good enough to play, leave, because you're not going to play. Because I will get people that are too good for you. I will get people that you can't compete with. So if you're not good enough, leave," right? Everyone could have thought he was hoorah, talking. He was dead serious. We came back after the COVID break and we saw the team. There was D1 players all over this team. I went to a D2 school. There's D1 players all over the team. I'm talking about players that I'm like, how do we get them? How do we get him? How do we get him? How do we get him? The competition at practice was crazy. Every morning before practice, I had these headphones on and I'm blasting music like it's the Super Bowl. Every practice, you had to have that intensity or it wasn't going to work. If you didn't have that intensity, you fall behind. So when everyone's coming out with such intensity and everyone wants to be the best and the team wants to be the best, the offense doesn't want to lose. The defense doesn't want to lose. So when you're going against your team, especially at the beginning of training camp, those guys turn into the enemy. You're not looking at them like your teammates. The coaches, he has to remind everybody, hey, we need our quarterback. We need these guys. Don't try to hurt your teammates. We need them. The first week of training camp, when pads come on, is when the coaches are having to give that speech, because the players, you start to see red. If you're a real competitor and you're really trying to be first and you're trying to be at the top, you see red when you're in practice. If you're not seeing red when you're in practice, you're not practicing as good as you can practice. Trust me on that. That's how I knew last year was my last year, because I wasn't able to lock in like that in practice. I wasn't able to feel like it was a game. I wasn't able to get going and get pissed off at practice. I was thinking about other stuff at practice. So this notion that Diggs and Dak, it's something personal, it's not true. If there was no chirping in practice, that'd be a problem. If there was no trash talk, that'd be a problem. Diggs is a cornerback. As a cornerback, that's the one position on the field where it's okay to feel like you're Jesus. It's okay to feel like you're primetime Sanders, because everything is confidence. If Diggs is confident enough to tell that to the quarterback, that he's not scared of nobody. If Dak would have reacted, then we would have known that there was something there. He didn't react. Dak's reaction tells you everything you need to know. And I'm glad that Diggs came out recently and has been saying, look, you guys need to mind your own business. You're not making any sense. You sound stupid. That's my guy. We're competing. Dak comes out and says, I feel bad for anybody who's never competed. I talk the most trash. That's another thing people don't know about quarterbacks and Dak. Quarterbacks talk the most trash out of anybody. It's like the person who knows they're untouchable. You can say whatever. Coach is going to take your side. No one's going to swing on you. You run the team. You're in charge. You can say whatever you want when you're the quarterback. That's just how it works. And Dak came out his own self and said, look, I start the trash talk. I talk the most trash. My favorite part of practice is the trash talk. You don't think Dak's going to hear that stuff when he's playing in games? You don't think no one's going to say anything crazy to him? If he swings on Diggs, he's for sure going to swing on somebody else in the game. So if I, as a Cowboy fan, I saw that my quarterback is great composure. You're not going to get him out of the game. You're not going to talk him out of the game. Everything's rolling off his shoulders. That's what I saw about that. I didn't take anything negative from that. This goes straight into Dak speaking on his interceptions. Everybody's acting like Dak is the only quarterback in training camp. Everyone's acting like he's the only guy that throws interceptions. There's things that happen in practice that have to happen in practice because that means they'll never happen in a game, right? So if you make a mistake in practice, you know, okay, I'm not doing that again in the game because I'll be an interception. If you have a quarterback that's not taking any risk in practice, he's going to take that risk in a game, and he's going to embarrass himself. He's going to embarrass the team. If you're the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, you better get every mistake out the way in practice because God knows you make one mistake in a game, the whole world's talking about it before you even get back to the bench. You know, that's just how it works. So the best thing you can do is make those mistakes in practice. Dak saying that he will lower the interceptions is not only putting confidence in himself, he's putting confidence in his receivers because a lot of his interceptions were bad routes. They were no separation. They were tipped passes. You know, it was him having to do too much because we couldn't move the chains earlier. A lot of things go into interceptions. He did have some awful interceptions. He did have some interceptions as like, dude, what are you doing? Every quarterback does, okay? Him coming out speaking on the interceptions, as far as we're concerned, he could be one of those guys that says, okay, in order for me to work harder, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to go chase that goal. Last week when I was in the lake, the ocean, I was in Gateo and I'm in the ocean and I had a football and I liked swimming to get a workout in, just swim into the waves, swim as far as I could swim. But I found interest in throwing the football as far as I could throw it into the water and then go swim to catch it. Get the football, throw it again, go swim to catch it. Throw it, swim to catch it. That's how I am. That's how I like to work. That's what motivates me. That's why things like car payments and stuff don't scare me because I truly believe that if I have things I have to pay, I know for a fact I'll go work hard enough to pay for those things. That's just how I work. I work better when the pressure is on. I work better when I see what I have to go get and I can go get it. Dak could be one of those guys. Him saying, oh, I'm not going to throw as many interceptions, that could be him just saying, you know what, here, I'm going to throw this and I'm going to go catch it. That could just be what we don't know. No one knows but him. So who are we to sit back and say, oh, if you start throwing interceptions, he's going to start playing scared? Let me ask you a question. Dan Orlovsky, McCoy, was it Rick Bucher also said it? Oh, we're worried that Dax, and I think TJ Husmanzada said it also, I saw. Oh, Dak's going to start playing scared. He's going to start being scared to throw interceptions. I got a quick question for you. Were we not talking about his interceptions all last season? We were. Did we ever see him come out and play scared when he was leading the NFL top offense? Did we see him play scared then? Did we see him play scared when he hung 40 points on the Eagles after he threw an interception real early in the game? We didn't see him play scared then, did we? So why would he start playing scared in training camp? Why would he start playing scared early in the regular season? That Eagles game last year, our playoff hopes were on the line. And he didn't play scared in that game. So I don't think Dak playing scared is ever something we've ever seen. If the only time that we could say he has played scared would be his rookie year when he was Dak and Dunk, when he wasn't throwing the ball deep as much. He's gotten less scared to throw the ball every year since he's played. So this notion that, oh, he's going to be scared, he's going to start to mess up, he's not going to be, it's going to make him worse. It's like, what's a good analogy I could use? It's like me, if I walk around with 300 pounds on my back, right? Let's say I walk around every day with 300 pounds on my back for a week. Imagine at the end of the week, someone says, oh, we don't want to take him and take the 300 pounds off, and we don't want to add 50 pounds on his shoulders because 50 pounds is too heavy. Me, as someone who's been used to carrying 300 pounds, what is 50 pounds to me? So yeah, 50 pounds is some weight, but I've been carrying 300. So what is 50? Dak's a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He came in behind Tony Romo. Dak, you think interceptions make him nervous? You don't think that he's in a mind space where he can't be made nervous? He's a quarterback for the Cowboys. How much more nerve-wracking can that get? Throwing interceptions is the last of his worries, I promise. He has had many things that were more pressure than not throwing an interception in the NFL. That is not something that's going to break him. That's not something that's going to break his wall and cause him to play different. If he was ever going to do that, it would have happened his rookie year. It would have happened against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It would have happened against Seattle in the playoffs. We don't see Dak choke. He makes bad decisions. As far as pressure is concerned, we're talking about a man that's lost a lot on and off the field. Not a lot of games, but he's lost things close to him. He's had the injury on the field. He's had the broken thumb on the field. Off the field, he's lost multiple family members very close to him. It's crazy to think that him saying that he's not going to throw interceptions would break it. Excuse me. It's crazy to think that him not throwing interceptions coming out of his mouth would cause him to be so nervous that it would change his play. That's just people trying to create a narrative, right? Next, that topic is ridiculous. The next thing I want to get into is the Mazi Smith stuff. Mazi Smith's get off. When I saw some videos on Twitter, right, I saw a video that was showcasing his strength. I didn't even see the videos when people had started to catch on his slow get off, right? I saw an early clip, and the first thing I noticed was that everybody was raised and he was still in the stance. I almost just messed up and said, and I was still in the stance because I had this issue my whole life. I played offensive line in high school, and even on offensive line, sometimes I would get off the ball slow. On defensive line, when I started playing that in college, I would always get off the ball slow. But I say always because every year it would happen a little bit at the beginning. But then with coaching, it would get fixed. Now, the type of coaching I would get was not somebody saying, when the ball's hiked, move this fast. When the ball's hiked, move. It wasn't a reaction problem. It was a thinking problem. I had played offensive line, then defensive line, then offensive line. I played so many different positions always that I was always thinking. I was always so scared to mess up, and I was always so scared to embarrass myself that I would be overthinking everything. So on defense, you're in a stance, and I'm going to put myself in Mazi's situation, right? You get down in a stance, you're a rookie in the NFL, everyone's already saying you were drafted too high, so he's got a little bit of pressure to not screw up. So he gets in his stance, and when you're on the defensive line, I'm not sure how they're coached. You would think I did know. I know for pass rush is one thing, but when you're just trying to stop the run and you're lined up across from your man, you're not just getting out of your stance and hitting a move and shooting up the field. You have a gap assignment. So if I got a guy here and a guy here, and my coach tells me this is my gap, If that ball is hiked and everyone shifts this way, I have to shift that way also and stay in my gap. I can't let this guy get on this side of me. I can't let this guy get on that side of me, because that's how you get creased, right? Mazi, as a rookie, is thinking all these things. He's thinking, he gets in his stance. Number one, he's thinking, don't jump off sides. He's thinking, don't move till the ball moves. Then he's thinking, if that ball moves and this guy goes this way, I'm taking this step and this way, like coach said. If this ball goes this way, if the line goes this way, I'm taking this step and going this way, like coach said. If he tries to do this move, I'm doing this move, like coach said. If you're going through all these things because you're new to it. So it's not easy to just go out and do these things without thinking. So you're thinking of all this. So when that ball's hiked, in your head, it only feels like 0.2 seconds for you to say, okay, he went that way, so now I'm gonna go. Or hike, all right, he went that way, I'm gonna go this way. It feels a lot quicker in your head than what it looks like on film. So when I'm out at practice, I felt like I was being fast, right? I feel like, oh, he went this way, I got this way, I stayed in my gap. He went this way, I got this way. No, you go watch film and I'm looking, and you can ask anybody who played with me. This is all facts. You would go look at me on film and everyone would start to move and I wouldn't be moving. And everyone's asking why. And I'm like, yo, I'm thinking. Like, I'm like, I don't want them to go this way and I step this way. I don't want them to go this way and I step that way. I'm trying to do it all the right way. And it takes time because the guys in the room have been playing defensive line much longer than me. So it was easier for them to react at a quicker pace. Mazi has been playing defensive line for a long time, but he hasn't been playing in the NFL. So when he's seeing these new guys in front of him, he's got a new playbook. He's trying to get everything down. He's trying to make sure he doesn't have any errors on film. Sometimes it takes you an extra 0.5 seconds to get out of that stance. So it's not like he's soft. It's not like he's scared. He's just thinking. And as time goes on and he gets more comfortable with the plays, the playbook, he gets more comfortable with reacting based off blocks, you'll notice he's going to go a lot faster. He's going to start to play fast. Coaches always say play fast. Don't think, play fast. Don't think, react. React and play fast. It's hard to do that at the beginning. When you're a rookie and you're new and you're thinking and you don't want to mess up, it takes a while for you to calm down, relax, understand that, look, if I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to make it at 100% and I'll get coached up on it. And that's what the coaches will tell you. If you mess up, we'll help you out. But you're not always trying to hear that. You're like, dude, I want to start. I want to be the best from the get-go. I don't have time to mess up on film. But you don't even realize that at the same time, you're still messing up because you're getting off the ball late. Getting off the ball late is a huge issue. Everyone gets an extra step on you. That's why you see Mazi sometimes got washed, because if you get off the ball late on a double team, them guys, not only does the first guy hit you, the second guy is hitting you before you even get a push on the first guy. Your only hope in a double team is to get a strong push on the first guy you make contact with. And then from that point on, you can work off of him and try to get a move off and get yourself in good position before before the other helper comes on to double team you. If you get off the ball late, it's a lost rep. If you get off the ball late in a double team, it's a lost rep. And the best bet you can do is to stay in your gap and hold ground. But you're not getting a TFL. You're not getting a sack. You're not getting, the huge Jadeveon Clowney hit in the backfield. None of these things are happening if you get off the ball late. Mazi will be coached up. If anybody would have told me that the biggest issue with Mazi would have been him getting off the ball late, I would have said we're in great shape, because that's one of the most coachable things on the defensive line. Just trust me. One of the easiest things to fix for a coach is a late get off. There's a million drills you can do for it. You can simplify the game for your guy. You can give him a different stance. You can, really get on him in film room. But it's not something that's going to show up on film in a game. And if it does show up in a game, it won't be for very long, right? It'll just be until he gets the hang of the NFL. The last thing I want to cover is how to watch training camp, right? I am the prime example of practice All-American. Not because I would try harder in practice than in the games, but I would try so hard in practice that usually by the time the games came, my body was like broken down. My body would be like, it would feel like I had played 3 months by the time the first game came, because I'd go to practice and I'd be at practice like it was a game, and I'd be busting my tail at practice because I'm trying to start. My best moments were at practice. I had some great highlights. I got a great highlight reel, but some of the craziest things, I'm going through my phone, I'll be like, dang, I did that? It'll be in practice. That's just how it is. The reason that is because when you're in practice, right, I want to make sure we don't overrate training camp and get overhyped from training camp, okay? When you're watching training camp, you got to put some things in mind. These guys aren't sore yet. These guys ain't been hit hard yet because they're going against each other. These guys aren't feeling the pressure they're going to feel in the season. So be careful, okay? Be careful, because everybody's fresh in training camp. Everybody's fresh. You'll start to see the real team week 5, week 6. How are people reacting when they're sore all week? Are they still running as fast as they were running? Are they still dipping that corner to get the quarterback as strong as they were in training camp? Are people as quick? Are they jumping as high? Are they diving as far? Are they as nasty? Are they as gritty? When you're in practice and your body feels great, it's easy to do all these things, right? Practice at the beginning of the year. But when you're like a few weeks into training camp or like a few games into the season, you start to feel a little something, you start to get those voices that are like, yo, I'm gonna take it a little easy for that. I'm not gonna dive that way because I don't wanna make this worse. I'm not gonna do that because this hurts. Or I feel like if I do that, this will get worse and then I won't be able to play. So these are things that start coming into your mind as you get into the season, deep into practices, deep into training camp, or anybody who even gets a little nicked injury. For instance, we saw Diggs a few practices ago. He was getting burnt sometimes. He was getting burnt, right? He was getting torched in the back of the end zone. Guys were catching balls on him. And one of the commentators said, Diggs is not playing like himself. His toe's not 100%, right? And I was glad he said that because I was getting a little worried. I'm like, man, I thought Diggs was locked down. He's getting torched. And then I'm like, oh, okay, he's got a bad toe. So I say watch training camp, because not some people may look better than they are, but then some people may look worse than they really are. It's training camp. Your mind's in a different spot. Diggs, if he's playing in a game and his toe hurts, you're still going to see him doing some of the things he would do if his toe wasn't hurt. But if you're watching a training camp, somebody could have a sore knee, but it didn't hurt enough for them to go to the trainers, so we have no clue about it. And they could have a bad practice and we're like, oh, this guy's not good, or this guy's sucking today, or what are we going to do? These guys are sore. We saw it with Micah firsthand last year, and it was happening to me at the same time. So I wrote a whole essay. I think it was like a couple days before Christmas. I wrote a whole essay explaining that Micah, his sacks are going down because he's hurting. No one could really see it yet, but I'm watching him and I'm like, he's 230 pounds and they're putting him at defensive end every play. His shoulders are going to start hurting. His knees are going to get sore. You can't produce the same effort, especially when you're having to try as hard as Micah tries and use the force that Micah has to use because he is a lighter guy. You can't do that if you're hurting. And that is why, predictably, he went into the offseason and put on 15, 20 pounds. Because you need that to be durable. If you're 230 pounds and you're out there, you're trying to turn the edge every single play, one of them times your knee's going to start getting sore. Your shoulder's going to start to hurt. And you're going to think, man, this is practice. I'm not trying to pop my shoulder out in practice, so I'm going to chill a little bit. If you're in a game, and say it's week 5 and we're playing Indianapolis, and we got Philly next week, some of them players that are a little hurt, they're not going to go out and kill themselves against Indianapolis because we got Philly next week, right? So it's really important to watch training camp and always factor in the point that people could be sore. Some people are way more fresh than others. There's so many things that we don't know about because we're not on the field. We're not in the locker room, and we're not those players. I forget it, or I forgot it every season that I started to play. It's like you forget the first day of sprints, the first day of, I'm flying, I'm moving fast. I'm like, man, I wasn't this fast last year. 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, this is why. Because I was sore, because I was hurting. I forgot that this sport brings pain. You can't just go and be 100% the whole time. No one is 100% for a whole football season. It's impossible. It does not happen. If you're 100%, you don't play, or you're not trying hard enough. So if you're watching training camp like I am, you just look for things. You look for skills. You look for abilities. Don't look for production in training camp. Please don't look for production in training camp. Unless it's a young guy. If it's like a rookie, maybe. Because you're trying to see something. What can you do for us? But don't go looking for production from all these players, and don't overhype production from the young guys, because they're fresh. They're fresh. What's going to happen if his knee's sore? You got a wide receiver who's moving super good. His knee gets sore. He's not going to play the same. But you got some guys where if their knee's sore, they still find a way to play the same. Those are the things you look for. Or if you're in training camp, for instance, CeeDee Lamb rising up for the 360 catch. That's great to see, because it's something that we already know he can do, but you watch how high he gets. How does he turn his body? How athletic is he? This is something that we know CD can do in week 12. So when we see it in training camp, that excites us. When we see Dak throwing dimes to Brandon Cooks, that excites us, because we get to see how Cooks will fit in the offense. And we get to see all these things. Those are things we can get excited about. I don't want anybody getting on Mazi's back. I don't need anybody. If Micah stops dominating practice, I don't need people saying that he's, falling off or anything like that. People get hurt. People have soreness. People make mistakes, and people are in training camp to get better. They're not in training camp to impress us. So we won't see what this team can really do until week 3, week 4. But we will see flashes. And if you're somebody who watches football a lot, you've been around football a lot, it's easy for you to see and pick out those flashes and what things will stick and what things won't stick. And that's what separates like the good scouts from the bad scouts, the good coaches from the bad coaches. You got to be able to see the difference in those things. Coaches don't get too high on what happens the first day of training camp. They want to see what happens at week 3. Week 4, they want to see how you do in the middle of the season. How's this guy then? We don't want to see how fast this guy is on day 1. That's just how it is. That's the reality of the situation. And I cut this video to 38 minutes, 30 seconds now, so we'll be under 40. It's pretty much where I wanted to be at with it. But it feels great to get a lot of this off my chest. I'm out here, I'm enjoying my life. I will continue to do so. I'll be back in the studio next week, and I'm excited for that. I miss the guys. I miss doing the Isotopes games. I miss talking into the microphone, making my podcasts. I'm gonna hit this harder. It's finally football season. I finally get some things to talk about, and I'm gonna keep giving you the perspective of somebody who has played a very long time. I'm 25 years old. This is my first summer not getting ready for a football season since I was 10 years old. So it's 15 years. That's 15 straight years of football. So I'm really excited to just sit back and watch for the first time this season. So I will try to do better with the videos and keep things going. And thank you guys for watching. Hope you liked it. Peace out.